All right, all right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Emily and Gail, as always, for helping us out. Sorry, I tried to mute while I wasn't talking there so you guys could hear Emily a little bit better. Of course, we are over in South America at our Andean bear habitat to say hi to our female Andean bear, whose name is Oha. And Oha is just coming on right now, so I'm going to flip this camera around so we can say hi to her and see what she is up to. So hang on just a moment. Let me find her out here. She's just coming out, and she's going to enjoy some enrichment that our keepers set out this morning. Now, for those of you guys that have been with us, we have actually done a full thing on our Andean bears. And so you guys have probably already heard all about the Andean bear and Miss Oha, but she is our 6-year-old female Andean bear. She will be turning 7 on February 16th, so she's almost 7 years old. We'll be celebrating that birthday with us. And she's been here at our zoo for about 2 years now. So she was a really special animal that we were able to bring in from an outside of country zoo, which was in Zurich, Switzerland. And most of our animals that we bring.
We lost your audio, Jed. I can hear you a little bit.
Okay, well, we're going to go with a little bit. We're going back and forth from our audio signals here. I'm not sure why that one went out, but yeah, so we're going to kind of see what's going on here. All right, can you still hear me, Emily?
Yeah, we can hear you. The construction noise is a little bit worse than it was before, though.
Okay, well, we're going to try to work around and work with it. So again, sorry about that, guys. We got a lot of construction going on here. But I was talking to you about how we brought Oha in from Zurich, Switzerland. And most of our animals come from zoos in the United States. And every now and then, we get an opportunity to work with an out-of-country facility to be able to bring in an animal that usually will come in for a breeding recommendation that has a different bloodline from those animals here in the U.S. Most of our animals, again, they are all born and raised in zoos, and we work with other AZA zoos to be able to ship animals around for what's called the SSP, the Species Survival Plan. And every species has an SSP, and within that, we work to be able to do those breeding programs. So every species has a studbook and a studbook keeper that holds the genetic lineage of each individual animal. And then when we're looking at pairing animals up, we want to make sure that they're not genetically related and that they are a compatible match if we are entering into a breeding program. So Oha has come in. Right now, she's our only bear. We did have Worf, who is our old male who passed away this year, or this last year, now that we're in 2021. And we are looking to potentially bring in a new male in the future. Right now, we do not have a match for Oha, but the plan will be to try to look for a male bear that has a good genetic matchup with her. And again, since she is from a different zoo out of country, then she is not represented at all within the U.S. zoo. So she is a high probability of a breeding companion. And what Josh, our zookeeper, did before we got on was put a bunch of enrichment out here for her. And that's anything that changes up the day-to-day life of the animals. And what we try to encourage is some of those natural behaviors that we might see in even our wild bears, our wild Andean bears. Of course, the Andean bear is from South America. This is the only South American bear The females are fairly small. The males can be double and even triple the size that she is. So she's only weighing around 180 pounds. And then the males can reach upwards of around 300 pounds. I'm going to try to move this around for you guys to see some of this fun enrichment. She loves searching for all of her enrichment. And this is a very dexterous bear, meaning that she'll use those front paws to really be able to manipulate her environment. And so you see that she's chewing on some bamboo, and Josh, our keeper, has put some fun food in and on that enrichment that challenges her to be able to find it. So what she has to do is rip open those little pieces of bamboo, so use those claws, as you're seeing right there, to rip open that bamboo to be able to get to the treats. So these are great enrichment puzzles that keep her mentally and physically stimulated, which is so important for all of our animals here at the zoo. We do want to challenge them. Oha is an extremely intelligent bear, and so the keepers are challenged to come up with those creative puzzles that ask her to work for some of those fun treats. So she does get food in the back, and then a lot of her food is scattered out here on habitat. And just like what she would have to do in the wild and search for that food, she has to do here. And so there are several different puzzles and balls and hanging things that she will have to utilize all of her strength and all of her senses to be able to access all that good food. And so we see her right now, again, just using her brain and her teeth and her claws to be able to open up that bamboo. Now, this species is known for being great climbers and great builders. And so what they will do is they'll climb up in trees, and they can actually build platforms to be able to reach some really good trees. And so you'll see throughout our habitat that we have several opportunities for her to be able to climb and get up, and again, challenge her to use all those natural adaptations. Now, I said she's the only South American bear. They are called the Andean bear, and that's because of the region that they come from in South America, which is typically the Andes Mountain or the Andes region. That region does span quite a ways throughout South America. They're also called the spectacle bears. And they are called the spectacle bears because a lot of them have that white marking or kind of tawny brown marking around their eyes, and it resembles spectacles or glasses. So that was kind of a name that they used to be called. And then through just different genetic morphs, a lot of the bears now don't quite have all those spectacle markings. And so the decision was made to be able to call them from the region that they are, and that's why they're called the Andean bear. So some of you guys may know this species as the spectacled bear or the Andean bear. There are 8 different species of bears out there. We have 3 in North America. So we have our North American black bear, we have our brown bear, and then we have our polar bear. The brown bear is kind of a umbrella species that represents several different species or subspecies of brown bear. So we can call the grizzly bear, the Kodiak bear, and then there are some brown bears that span in Canada and in Russia and even in Europe that are all considered brown bears. And then over in our Asiatic region, we have our Asiatic black bear, we have our panda bear, we have our sloth bear, and our Malayan sun bear. So that makes up the 8 species of bears left on our planet. Unfortunately, some of those animals or some of those bears are critically endangered, like our Malayan sun bear, and our panda bears were critically endangered. And now, because of conservation work that has gone in, that bear is now listed as a threatened bear. So they've gone from critically endangered to endangered to threatened. So their numbers are actually going up, and that's due to great conservation that went behind the panda bear to be able to increase and stabilize their numbers. The Andean bear is considered a threatened bear, so not endangered or critically endangered, but one that we do need to keep a very close eye on. It's not one that's really hunted or poached like some other species that are threatened, but it's one that unfortunately their habitat is shrinking, and this bear does need a very large range to be able to survive and find food and to be able to find mates. They are fairly solitary, so her being by herself is not an issue right now. The males will come together with a female for breeding season. They will mate with the female for 1 to 2 weeks, and then they will go off, and the female will then have their cubs. And typically, a female Andean bear will have 1 cub and sometimes 2 cubs. So at 7 years old, she is sexually mature. This species can live anywhere from about 20 to 25 years in human care, so in a zoo. In the wild, we don't have really good numbers on their age. We haven't been able to study enough adult bears from birth to death to be able to know exactly how long they can live in the wild. Typically, our species don't live as long in the wild as they do here in human care in our zoos. And that's because as they age, of course, the same thing that happens to us as we age happens to our animals. And so once they get to a point where it's challenging for them to climb, challenging them to be able to survive, they can be preyed upon by mountain lions, by jaguars, and also it can be challenging for them to be able to find enough food. And so a lot of times they will perish in the wild at an earlier age than one that's here at our zoo. And again, that's due to the amazing veterinary care and the amazing animal keeper care that we got going on. Okay, so I can try and compete with noise from our construction crew, but I am not going to compete with noise from our fighter jets that are flying over. So give us a moment. We got a lot of noise this morning. All right, so now that we've got our planes, we're still combating our construction noise, but it looks like our fighter jets might have flown over and done their pass by. So we have Josh who's here. Josh is our zookeeper who's coming up to join us here. Hang on, let me try to move our equipment here for you. Now we got some jackhammering. We're just getting it all today. You guys are just getting all the fun noise. All right, Josh. So what did we put in some of her treats that are out here?
So it's mostly just
her... talk louder because we're, yep.
So it's mostly just her diet. So Andean bears are omnivores, so she does receive a bear chow, but then she gets a lot of different fruits and vegetables as well. So you might see a lot of the different fruits and vegetables that might be cut up and put into the different browse items. She also really likes lots of different kinds of smears. So that could include peanut butter, it might include honey, as well as different kinds of jelly spreads.
Now, just to let you guys know, stick with us because once she's done finding the enrichment, we're going to try to do some training with her. A lot of you guys have talked about how do we train. We've talked about training, and we're going to do a training session at our mesh here. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to train if our audio doesn't kill us here with jackhammering and concrete trucks. Now, one of the things that's... One of the things that's really exciting about the construction is that we're doing our flamingo habitat. So that's the noise you guys are hearing. We're very close to being done with that flamingo habitat. By the end of the month, we're planning on moving our flamingos. So that's really exciting news. And then the next construction project will be going into Reid Park and expanding the zoo by about 4.5 acres in creating a new Asiatic habitat. So that's where we're going to have our tigers. We're going to bring in another bear species, that sloth bear that I was talking about, red pandas and a reptile house, some large bats, a fishing cat, red pandas, a lot of amazing animals. And in doing that construction, that's going to actually go right behind our Andean bear. So that's going to go right behind our Andean bear habitat. I'm going to show you guys the fence right there. So that's the border of where the Andean bear habitat is. Now what separates her from that fence is a large moat. So right beyond, let me show you guys, right beyond these boulders that are right there, there's a large moat that's down there. And that moat is a protective barrier so that the Andean bears don't climb out. Of course, these guys are great climbers, and we don't want them to climb out. And so what we want to do and have the opportunity to do is to be able to expand the Andean bear habitat. So Miss Oha in our construction is actually going to get a much larger space because we're going to be expanding. We're going to fill in that moat, push the fence back a little bit. So we are expanding into the already kind of geo zone of the zoo to build a brand new habitat. And in doing so, we're also going to be expanding our off-site habitat. So you guys have known from previous talks that we have our main habitat and then we have our night houses. Those are the areas that the animals can go into at nighttime. And also, wow, you can see how powerful she is. You see how she just moved over this palm log here? And so those are the areas that they can go into at nighttime. And it's also the areas that they will go into when the keepers need to go out on habitat. You'll remember that we are a protected contact zoo. That means that we never go into the same space at the same time with any of our powerful animals. We don't say dangerous animals, we say powerful animals. And Oha is showing you just how powerful she is. This is a bear. She has great adaptations to be able to defend herself and to be able to navigate her environment. And if Josh goes in with her, she could use those adaptations on him. That's not something we want to have happen. And so all of our animals, we ask them to go into their night house. We can lock and secure them. And then it's safe for us to be able to go out on habitat. So we're going to be expanding that back habitat for her. And what that's going to enable is greater room for the potential future if she has cubs. So if we do have a male come in, it gets a breeding recommendation, and we have cubs, the female and the cubs will be separated from the male. And so we'll need a space in the back that's large enough to be able to house the mom and potentially 2 cubs. And so that expansion is going to be hugely significant to not only allow them to have more space, but then also to allow for a better cubbing opportunity and better observation for our keepers to keep an eye on mom and cubs. Now, for that to happen, that means Oha has to go up to our health center. So, Josh, in preparation of Oha going up to the health center, how will we transport her from her habitat up to the health center?
So we'll be doing a crate training behavior with Oha, which means that she'll be trained to do a voluntary behavior in which she'll get into a crate for us.
Okay, which is really cool. So I'm not sure if you were able to hear all that, but they're going to train her to go into a crate, and then that crate will be able to lock and secure, and then be able to just transport that crate up to our health center and ask her to walk in. So the goal is to not have to put her under any anesthesia. So otherwise, if she wasn't able to do that, we would have to anesthetize her and then transport her. Anytime you put an animal under anesthesia can be a risky thing. And so if we don't have to do that, we don't want to do that. And so by just training her to walk into a crate, that is a very easy way to do that. Now, Josh, I know we're not doing crate training right now because we're not in the point of actually bringing her up, but we still have maybe a couple months before that's going to happen. But the training that you have done with her is going to help out with that transition. So what are some behaviors that she already knows and that we might see in a little bit?
Yeah, so we'll train behaviors both for medical purposes, but also for enrichment. Every training session is relationship building between keeper and animal, and just having her learn new behaviors, it's very enriching to have her go through that thought process cognitively. So she knows an alley-oop behavior in which she'll place both paws on the mesh. She knows a open mouth behavior, a tug behavior, targets, as well as a climb behavior.
All right, awesome. Now, for the morning routine, we're gonna get to see her climb a little bit here. So this is pretty normal for her morning routine. You bring her in, you do kind of a check on her, see how she's doing, and then you'll put out some enrichment. What about the rest of the day? What does the rest of her day kind of look like as somewhat of a routine?
Andean bears in general are very seasonal animals, so their motivation shifts depending on the season that they're experiencing. So a lot of our decisions throughout the day are based on those behaviors that we'll see depending on the season and the time of the day. At this time of the year, Andean bears, they need a lot of calories, so they're constantly searching for food and foraging. So Omar receives a lot of different enrichment. Up to 8 to 10 times a day, we'll do different enrichment drops and re-enriching of the yard. Andean bears also really love to build nests at this time of the year. So we give her lots of browse and nesting material to be provided for her nesting locations.
Now, Josh, when she first came in, one of her favorite spots was a mulberry tree. Now, the mulberry tree right now has kind of lost its leaves, but she was showing that nesting behavior really quickly, and she was climbing up in that tree and pulling all the branches over. That's a really common behavior that we'll see with this species. Okay, I'm trying to focus for you guys past this nest here. There we go. All right. Just moving all around on us, guys. Now we see this very interesting enrichment device that she's working on right now. What's kind of the goal with this thing? I mean, it wiggles and wobbles and moves all over the place. What are you trying to get out of this bear from painting something like this?
It's definitely going to be problem solving. So Andean bears in their natural environment, they constantly have to solve different problems or situations that they come into contact with. That probably has to do a lot with foraging strategies as well. So this is a new problem-solving enrichment item that involves a foraging strategy in which you have to manipulate the objects to get food on themselves.
Yeah, this thing looks like it would be challenging. She has to balance. She has to use her paws. She has to move those PVC pipes up and down to get, I'm assuming there's food in the holes, and for that food to be able to drop out. Now, where do you guys come up with these ideas?
Our enrichment program, we highlight their natural history and we decide what behaviors we want to elicit here under human care. And then from there, we have a lot of resources. There's a lot of resources within the beekeeper community for enrichment, but we're constantly just trying to brainstorm different ideas.
Yeah, I know there are different forums that you guys can go to and communicate with other keepers around the world that have the same species and say, hey, we built this really cool thing that our Andean bear really loved, and you can take that idea and then we can duplicate it here at our zoo. And then we also have great interns on our college intern program, and we have some people that will bring in different enrichment items as well. We actually just did our enrichment tree for the holiday season, and the zookeepers would put out a wish list for any fun items out there, and then you guys, our community, get an opportunity to be able to purchase some of those items. And man, I tell you, this year was huge. You guys were amazing at getting some of these enrichment items. Did Oha get any of them enrichment items from that?
Yeah, she got some new feeder toys from that. On this routine, we also have the anteaters and the tapers as well, and they all got lots of different novel feeding toys as well.
Yeah, because I assume that, these things don't last. I mean, this is a big, strong, powerful bear, and over time, the boomer balls are going to break, the enrichment items are going to break, and then we need to change those out, and those things can be expensive. And so, it's a huge help when the community steps in and helps us out by purchasing some of those items. And I'll tell you again, this year, you guys were absolutely amazing. We had so many enrichment items that came in. It was huge to be able to see. And I cannot tell you how grateful our keepers and our animals are to all of you guys that helped out. So if anyone that is on here or is watching did that, thank you guys so much. And if you do want to get involved in that, you can always go to our website and check out some information on how you can help out. Now, this is one of our favorite spots to kind of hang out. This is a big kind of Bermuda hay nest that she made, and she gets to kind of hang out there, and the sun will hit her, and she just kind of lounges and keeps an eye out on stuff. Now, with all the construction going on, how has she been? I mean, she looks like she doesn't care.
Yeah, so we give our animals access when there's loud construction noise, so they have the choice on whether or not they want to be outside. For the most part, Oha likes to spend time outside. Many times she will come inside though when she hears her zookeepers, and that's because of that relationship that they built together. And in those opportunities, it's great to put training sessions in the night house, and then we just simply re-enrich the yard. But she's been doing really great with the construction. If anything, she likes to watch a lot of the construction projects throughout the zoo from her top story nest on top of the rockwood tree.
Yeah, you saw when she was climbing up there. That gives her a great look out beyond the zoo. She can see out into Reid Park, and then she can see over into the front plaza as well. And as Josh said, that's where some of the construction's going on. She's actually sitting right next to where that kind of noisy truck is. Doesn't look like she cares one bit. They might actually be a little bit interested in what's going on. So that could be a great form of enrichment as well. Now, Josh, we talked about a training session. What do you think? Do you think she might be interested?
Yeah, I think she'll participate. She has a choice if she wants to participate or not, but I think she'll probably come over and we'll do it.
Okay, sounds good, guys. So we're going to see if she wants to come over here. So we're going to let Josh go over and give her the signal, a call, to see if she wants to come over and hang out with us. And then we'll get to see a training session here live on our Wednesday member chat. So, I'm going to try and be quiet for a moment so that Oha recognizes Josh. He's looking interested. He's looking around. There's a lot of noise over there. There we go. All right, guys, so let me move my equipment so you can get a little bit better look at what's going on here. so as Josh said, all of our training is voluntary, so it's up to the animal if they want to come over and participate. And if they do want to participate, typically they know they're going to get some interaction with their keeper, and then also they're going to get some good treats. And so the behaviors that we work on, again, are all through protective barriers. You can see that Josh is on one side of the fence, and Oha is on the other. And all the training we do is called positive reinforcement training. And so we use no adversive. So we don't use any negatives. We don't say no. We don't hit the animal or poke the animal or do anything like that. Everything is all positive. And what Josh is doing is giving Oha some cues, giving her some signals on what he's trying to ask her to do. Now notice that I'm saying ask, and notice that I'm not saying command. Okay, we're not commanding the animal to do anything, and we're not forcing the animal to do anything. We're simply asking them, and then if they participate in that, you're going to hear either a good or a whistle from Josh. And that is what we call a bridge. That bridges when the behavior has been completed, and then when we're going to give some reinforcement. So you can see that Josh is asking Oha to be able to stand, to be able to sit, to be able to lay down. This is the alley-oop behavior. And what we're asking her to do is put both paws up right there and be steady. Now, they look like they're just fun behaviors, but they're really critical for us to get a good look at how Oha is doing. And so on a medical benefit, if maybe she had a sore foot, or maybe she had a little thorn in her foot and she was limping a little bit. Just by asking her to put her foot up, we can take a really good look at that, and we might be able to treat the problem right here. And or if it got to a point where we needed to immobilize her, we're not going in blind. We know exactly what we're doing, and so we can be very efficient and only have that animal under anesthesia for the shortest amount of time possible. And so the training really allows us to be able to get that good look at the animal. And again, it's all voluntary, so she could walk away at any point if she wanted to. But she, again, really enjoys the interaction that she has with her keepers. And you can see with this stand behavior, this gives us a really good look at her belly. This gives us a really good look at her muscles, at her paws, at her claws. All those things that give us an idea of how she is doing. Maybe she's limping a little bit. Maybe she doesn't want to stand up. A lot of animals, when they're injured, they're going to want to hide that injury. So they don't want to show what their injury is. They don't want to show other animals that they are an easier prey or an easier threat. And so what these do is kind of put her through an exercise regimen that really allows us to see all those muscles working, those joints working, and if she didn't want to do something, that could be the first indication to Josh that maybe she's not doing that well. So again, it's a really, really amazing opportunity for us to be able to get a good look at our animals and then to do that relationship building. By doing this is the first step to be able to ask her to go into that crate when we are going to move her up to our health center. And it's that trust that is built up that Oha is going to trust her keeper that what he's asking her to do is going to be a safe thing. You can also kind of see that she has an open mouth behavior, where we can ask her to open her mouth, and we can look inside and see how her teeth are doing. She also has kind of a tongue behavior where she will stick her tongue out. And that's an opportunity that if we needed to give her some medicine, we can just ask her to open her mouth and stick her tongue out, and we can put the medicine right on her tongue. So again, all these behaviors are not tricks. We're not asking her to jump through a hoop of fire or balance on a bicycle or something silly like that. They are trained to be able to allow us to look at the animal and keep a really close eye on her. All right, awesome work, Josh. Awesome work, Ohad. So Emily, I think at this time, maybe we'll check and see if anybody has any questions about anything that's going on here.
We don't have too many questions at the moment, so if anyone has any last minute questions, please pop them into the chat and we'll get those going. Let's see here. Not anything in particular at the moment.
Oh, great. That means that Josh and I answered everything already. I love it. I mean, I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing you guys' questions and your engagement. I do see the chat box going on. It's, you know, I love hearing your guys' comments. I did see that she swam. She does swim. The pool is a little chilly, but Josh, does she get in the water right now during the wintertime?
Yeah, she sometimes if we put enrichment in the pool in the morning time, she'll wait for it to warm up a little bit throughout the day though. So she's smart. She knows when it's warmest to go into the pool to retrieve stuff.
So these guys can swim, and during the summertime, they definitely will spend quite a bit of time in the water to cool down. Josh did say that you know, they'll put enrichment items in the pool, and during the afternoon when it's a little bit warmer, she will go in there and at least, you know, look at that enrichment, try to find that enrichment, and maybe cool off a little bit. So she's probably loving this weather right now. She's sitting here like, hey, Josh, do you have any more food? What's going on? That was a pretty short session. Just like Josh said, this time they are trying to consume a lot of calories, and so, you know, food motivation works out great because we can do quite a bit of training with her, and she wants to participate quite a bit, so that's pretty cool. So,
we do have a few questions now, Jed. Let's see. So how long, Josh probably would be the one to answer this. How long does it typically take her to learn her different behaviors?
She's really smart. Sometimes it just depends on the behavior and how difficult it is, but even with behaviors, we can change and modify the criteria, which means we can kind of change the rules a little bit and help shape new behaviors. And so she's really smart. She picks up on some things really quickly. Bears are really unique in which sometimes they'll actually mirror their trainer's body movements, and that's how we were able to shape and train that lay down behavior. She actually, I was asking her to lay down and I was going in a lay down position, and that's how I captured it. So sometimes it just depends on the behavior, but they're very fast and they're very smart with learning different things.
And Oha from the bears, the Andean bears that we've had, she is a really intelligent bear and picks things up really quickly. And it's really fun to be able to watch her train and just watch, you know, how she is trying to communicate. Because of course, training is a silent communication between two animals that don't really speak the same language. Of course, we have Josh, who's our keeper, and then our Andean bear, and they've got to figure out how to communicate in a common language. And so that again is body language. That is learning those different movements and learning those different signals that you know, teaches her what we're trying to get her to do, what we're asking her to do. And you can definitely see the wheels turning in her little brain, her big brain, to be able to figure out what's going on. To get a little drink of water here. So it's been a rough morning for her. She's been working up an appetite, and there's a little drink of water.
So another question that we have here is there something significant about their footsteps, as in the way that she walks?
You know, bears are fairly all all similar in their movements. Of course, they do have different adaptations depending on what species it is. And I wouldn't say that her movement probably varies too much on the ground from other bear species that are more terrestrial. So like our brown bears and our polar bears. But definitely for climbing, she has a great adaptation to be able to climb. So she's very dexterous in her claws and in those front paws. And this bear species, like some others, like the Malayan sun bear, the sloth bear, will definitely use those paws very differently than, say, a grizzly bear or a polar bear. And so they will be able to kind of manipulate smaller objects, where the polar bear and the grizzly bear are using theirs more to be able to dig, to be able to hunt, and not so much climb. So our grizzlies and our polar bears are not going to be very arboreal because of their large mass. And so any of those arboreal bears definitely are going to have a different kind of paw adaptation that's going to help them in that process. But their skeletal structure is all the same. So their skeletal structure is all fairly similar throughout all the bears.
Does she ever vocalize when she wants something?
She definitely will vocalize. So they'll do this cooing, and you guys probably couldn't hear it because of the audio going on, but she was doing like a little bit of a chuff noise. So a little woof, 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 woof. So do you hear that a lot, Josh?
Yeah, she'll do that a lot while interacting with objects. During the breeding season, they thrill, and it sounds like Chewbacca, and that's actually their mating call when they're paired with the male.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty exciting to be able to hear that. So they definitely have kind of that a breeding bear communication when they're getting paired up. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're getting close to kind of 9:45 here, so we want to kind of keep this a little bit short. So again, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in with us on this Wednesday morning and working with us on changing our animal up. You know, we're at a zoo, things happen, we adapt and evolve, and we just tackle whatever problems come. That's what we do here at the zoo, and we want to thank all you guys for bearing with us and for joining us again on another amazing member virtual Wednesday chat. Whether or not you guys are watching this live right now or on YouTube, we just appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys working with us and supporting Reid Park Zoo through everything that's going on right here. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see you guys in another 2 weeks. Remember, we're off next week, but we're back on the following one. So we'll get information out on what's going on. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to go over to say hi to elephants, or if not, we'll tackle another really exciting animal here at Reid Park Zoo. So from all of us, thank you, Josh, for taking some time out and joining us this morning. And thank you to Emily and Gail for everything that you guys do. And of course, thank you for all of you guys. I can't wait to see you guys in a couple weeks. So stay safe and stay wild out there, Tucson.